Welcome to International TEFL Academy live on Facebook. I am Ashley, one of the admissions advisors here at ITA, and today I am joined by one of our longtime alumna. 7 years ago, Rachel Sair started her TEFL certification and spent a ton of time living in Spain, so she's going to share all about her life and experience in Barcelona. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you very much.
So why don't we start out? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What are you doing before coming, to Spain?
Okay. Well, I'm actually from Chicago. I was living right near where we are right now.
Awesome.
And before going to Spain, I was teaching Spanish in a suburb of Chicago. So,
Nice.
So the question about knowing Spanish before going is not the most fair question for me because I didn't have that issue, but that's what I was doing. I was a teacher in a public school in the suburbs here. So
Excellent. So you have a degree in education then going into all of this?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
So, and you would think that that might be an advantage. And I thought that nothing would be harder than my master's program in teaching Spanish, but I was in for an awakening. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was definitely surprised by how challenging the TEFL program was, with it being only 1 month and an intense course in just 1 month time. So
yes, our on-site 4-week intensives are a shock to
Yes.
a lot of people, even who have their master's in education. It's like, wow, this is a boot camp next level kind of style.
It definitely is.
So from, this time teaching Spanish in the public school systems, what changed your mind and made you think, hey, I want to leave the US, I want to go abroad and do this, intensive course and then teach?
Yeah. Well, after 12 years of being in the same position, doing the same thing, I was ready for a change. So, and I had done a teacher exchange program a couple of years earlier in Mexico, and really wanted to go back to Mexico, but forced myself to do something different. And at the time, my sister was living in London, so I thought,
very nice.
we were very close to each other, so. It worked out well that we could see each other frequently, and also I knew that I wanted to be in a Spanish-speaking country as well. And being in Barcelona, there's another language there that I could learn. So, and also I think at the time ITA only had the program. I don't know if they still do, but it was only in Barcelona. It wasn't in Madrid. So. And that kind of, I was not sure, I want to be in a big city, but it's worked out perfectly because Barcelona is definitely where I belong. So,
I mean, this is long-term alumna. We just celebrated our 8th anniversary here at ITA yesterday, and you took our Barcelona course 7 years ago. So a lot has changed and evolved and grown since then.
That's true.
But tell us a little bit about why you chose Barcelona and that on-site intensive course there.
Well, I had been to Barcelona about 3 years before that, but only for a few days for a friend's wedding. So I got in a taste of Barcelona and started to, think back to, at least to do the course there, and knew that, then you have the option to go anywhere. But I had a job offer soon right after the course. And at the time, there was a website that's similar to Craigslist, and they just had job ads on there. And now I think more people find job ads on Facebook pages for TEFL Teachers Barcelona. There's a lot of job ads on there, and there's a lot of just specialized job websites. So you can find jobs that way. And it's not too difficult to find jobs, but what I warn people about is all the negative people online, to not get swayed by that. So there's plenty of people who complain about I can't find a job. And I think with the course, I also have a different job now where I still teach privately, and I teach for the academy I work for, but not at the academy. I teach at businesses. And our academy is based about an hour outside of Barcelona, so I don't really go there. But I am a coordinator for the academy. So I coordinate in between the academy, the human resources at businesses and the teachers. So I hire teachers to teach at the companies in Barcelona.
Okay.
And I teach some of the courses in Barcelona at the companies also.
Wow. So your role has definitely grown and changed and moved outside of that typical, teacher.
Exactly.
Position.
Yeah. And so I like hiring the teachers and managing the teachers, and every once in a while, having to work with them and improve when, there's comments or anything made, and, as different feedback comes in. So, but that's given me a different role than most teachers have, where I have a set monthly schedule, I have a set monthly salary, and most teachers don't have that luxury. So
it's possible.
It's possible, but and one of the teachers had, then asked me for a raise, and it's like, I haven't had a raise. There's certain places like Barcelona where our salaries, nobody's salaries have changed ever in 7 years. So I haven't raised, once I set the price for a student, I haven't raised that price since I started with them, because people's salaries haven't been raised. So just to keep it fair for everyone, as much as possible.
And with your, background already, as an educator here in the US, tell us a little bit about what the benefits of getting your, specialization, this TEFL certification, what was even challenging and surprising to you about that process, maybe?
It's probably most surprising how different it is to go from teaching, even though you think it's just, okay, just flip English, it, you were teaching Spanish, now just teach English, but it's quite different. But what did help me maybe the most is being able to understand why people were making the mistakes that they made. So I would definitely suggest to people that, are planning to do a course to start taking Spanish as soon as possible if they hadn't before. And also, what was challenging was learning the way to lesson plan following the ITA method, because I hadn't done maybe the formal lesson planning on my own since maybe, the training for my teacher training. I had done my own kind of lesson planning, but not fitting the mold of the ITA method.
Retraining the brain a little bit there and trying new things. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome. You haven't missed too much. We are chatting with our longtime alumna, Rachel Sair, who has been in Barcelona, Spain, teaching, and has grown into different roles in her experience there. So feel free to throw out your questions in the chat. We'll be taking them as we go through here. Now, tell us a bit more about your first teaching job when you were there. What school were you working for? Who were your students?
So I never worked at a school because after I was teaching in the US, I knew that I was done with school. So in Barcelona, I taught for academies that sent me to businesses. And so I was working with small groups and businesses. Usually they have maybe 10 students. Some of them like to have 4 to 15 students. So the very first job I had was at an international company, and that actually its headquarters are here in Chicago, or were here in Chicago, and so they know the importance of English then. And a lot of times when they're in businesses, people have a misconception that it's done business English, but they just needed to learn English in general.
Like beginning level basics, even some of these.
Sometimes, I mean, it depends on their level. And a lot of times they're just interested in practicing English. So it's not so much, sometimes we base it around business ideas, or we'll look at business articles, but it doesn't have to be like hardcore business English. Just,
if you're going to a meeting, here's what you need.
Exactly.
I want to get some conversation and learn some of these colloquialisms.
Colloquialisms.
Idioms.
Idioms. but a lot of times they're not dealing with native English speakers. So we have to deal with the fact of, okay, you don't want to use too many idioms because the person you're speaking to might not understand that either. But we do also like email English or presentations. It depends on like their needs. I think that's one of the most important things that I tell other teachers also in their first class is getting the objectives of the students, is finding out what do the students want to learn, because they're your clients. And if you're not going to achieve what they want to learn, you're going to lose them. So yeah, you need to find out what they want. So,
and that, I think that goes for private tutoring students too.
Exactly,
like this is not your agenda, but
yes,
we gotta have a conversation first about what learning is wanted here.
Exactly. And I do that during lunchtime. I have either teaching at a business or also teaching children, because in Spain, some of the children go home to eat, and I do classes at that time.
Nice.
Or after school. So
lunch and learn.
Yeah, exactly. So they have like 2 hours. So they have lunch and then time for class also. And then classes after 5 o'clock. So yeah. So my first year was like just doing everything I could to do classes in the morning at companies, and it was a lot of moving around, and you spend money on the transportation. A lot of people ask if the academy pays for your transportation. Not my academy.
Yeah.
Maybe some do, but you have to factor that in. It's a lot cheaper than Chicago transportation. It was only, you can get $1 for one ride or €1. And, but it just depends really on what you're looking for. There's some schools where you can be in a school. It depends. I mean, there's different programs too that you can look into where you can be like an assistant in
all those government programs. I think there's at least 5 now in Spain. Let's get to a couple of questions that are coming through. So we have one asking us a little bit about any summer teaching programs, and maybe you haven't been involved, but have you heard about summer teaching options or summer camps?
Well, for 6 summers, I taught at one summer camp, and that was where there were only native English speakers, and I learned a lot of English at that camp from all the other English speakers from all over the world. And there's a lot of English summer camps. So in
the city of Barcelona, outside the city?
I was at an overnight camp. So that was like a whole month outside, which was actually in a hotel, which is pretty much the only way that I do camping. So, and this year I was the English coordinator at a summer camp in a hotel. So, and that one there were pretty much no other native English teachers. So it was a very different one. It was more, we did have English classes in the morning, but then there were like adventure camps in the afternoon. So it was very different. But in July, there's lots of different kinds of opportunities. In August, everything pretty much shuts down.
Everybody goes on a holiday.
Yes, Europe shuts down in August, and that's why I'm here in Chicago right now. So it's a good opportunity to come home and visit family.
Now, you started out as a teacher. You've kind of grown into different roles at summer camps, coordinating those, and now you have a more management role as a coordinator.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about the coordinator position itself.
Yeah. I don't think that that's common for someone to be able to get.
Right.
It was a little bit of kind of I have this book here that's about the crossing cultures that where you kind of have to know how to handle the different roles of cultures. Where my first year teaching, I was at one of the companies, and they wanted to split this big group in 2. And my boss, I let him know, and he said, well, I'm not going to be able to find somebody to teach the second class for 1 hour a week in Barcelona. And that was the academy that's an hour outside of Barcelona. But our TEFL course was in Barcelona, And I was still in contact with, the teachers, and I was still living where I had been placed, and there were other teachers there, and everybody's looking for a first job.
Oh, yeah.
So
I know a whole cohort of 12 already.
So I was like, well, what if I find the teacher, And then that led to over the summer where I had been working for 2 different companies, and the other one paid a lot better. And I said, well, either I'm going to work for this company that pays a lot more, or can you match that?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, actually, I have a different opportunity that I'd like to talk to you about. So that led to the coordinating. So it's a little bit of that American pushiness. But when some other American just tried that on me last summer, that didn't work at all, because that's not common. So
you had to earn that and really build up to it.
I mean, it's just not, nobody gets raises. So it was kind of just the luck of the moment that he was developing business in Barcelona. It's just, I don't know, it was
a unique situation.
Exactly. A unique situation, and knowing the way to handle the business, knowing when to push and when to pull back is really important for handling the different cultures. So a lot of people wonder, why they handle things in certain ways. And, respecting the vacation time is really serious business.
So much nuance to it.
Yes.
That takes, I think, a good amount of time to learn.
Yeah. Where I have to apologize as I write to my boss during vacation time saying, I'm sorry to bother you during vacation, but nobody's been paid for July, serious things to certain people, but he's on vacation. So certain things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of folks out there have questions about visas. It's always a hot topic. Mm-hmm. So what visa were you on, and how did that evolve? Did it evolve?
Yeah. So the company, the academy I worked for, tried to get a visa for me for the first maybe couple of years, which was impossible. If you're not from a country in the European Union, it's pretty much impossible to get a visa for somebody who's not from there. So once we learned that, then there's basically a service for free in Barcelona that is for refugees and immigrants. And I went there and consulted with a lawyer, and they basically gave me the points of what you have to do. And the very first thing that's the most important thing to do is to register with the city. As soon as you do that, your clock starts, and you have 3 years then that you have to wait. And so you have to overstay your visa. So, and the government knows that. Yeah. And you have, it's called, the visa that I was on is called, that I'm still on, is called Arraigo Social. What that means is that you are you've integrated yourself socially in the society, and you have a work visa. So it's a work visa, but in combination with having integrated yourself socially. And one way to demonstrate that is by taking Catalan classes. Sure. There's different criteria that you can meet. They give you a list, and it takes 3 years to obtain that from the moment that you sign up with the city. That's the very first thing you have to do. So
how long after, arriving in Spain on this tourist visa did you discover hey, I can register and then my 3 years starts?
Yeah, that was my downfall, unfortunately. But I mean, eventually it worked out. Yeah. But no, it took me 3 years to figure that out.
On that tourist visa for 3 years, overstaying the 90
days. This was early on. So this was, 7 years ago, before there were, to just put it out there blatantly, before there were attacks in Europe, before any of that. So, there weren't, because there's the Schengen zone in Europe, there are supposed to be these 21 countries that don't have borders. But after attacks started in Nice and in like different parts of other parts of France and in different countries, then they started to do more border controls. And so even though I was traveling by bus, they would stop buses and people would get on the buses and check everybody's ID. And so I stopped traveling between countries. I stopped traveling. I'm like, it's not worth the risk. And yeah. So,
yeah, you definitely see, for those of you who are in, alumni, in those alumni Facebook groups, people will say, they're cracking down here at this airport, maybe try a bus or a train, but a lot has changed.
A lot has changed. So at the very beginning, it was not a problem to travel back and forth between the US and Spain as often as I wanted. And then I was stopped. So I had to be in Chicago for 3 months because you can only be in the Schengen zone for 90 days. So if you travel home, you technically have to be home for 90 days, which is what one of the teachers who works for me did. So she left in early June and she'll come back early September. But classes in Barcelona don't start really until October 1st. So that's not a big deal. They don't start until
teacher summer break.
Yeah,
you have to sort of take if you come back.
So if you're there for 90 days, you have to be out 90 days. And I had just gone home for winter vacation, went back, and they're like, you've only been gone for 2 weeks. You need to go back home for 90 days. But it all worked out in retrospect. And so then, that's when I signed up with the city and started my 3 years. So yeah.
And you were able to travel back home during those 3 years for 90-day stints, or?
And then once you register with the city, you're allowed to travel outside of the Schengen zone for 180 days total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to count your days carefully in your passport because the immigration officials will count those days carefully in your visa, in your passport. There's no official visa. The visa is your passport. Yeah.
Pro tip for everyone out there. Get the calculator out and tally it up.
I mean, there's other ways too, but that's the only visa that I have experience with. So
great. Yeah. Well, let's get to some more fun questions.
Yeah.
You've taught at a summer camp, you've taught at academies, you've gone into businesses. What is your favorite part of teaching English as opposed to your role teaching Spanish?
Well, I think now I really enjoy doing probably after school one-to-one classes with kids and just their excitement and seeing you come and now that they've gotten a little bit older, because I've worked with some of the same kids for years now, for like 5 years, and seeing their progress and seeing them change, but also when they don't have homework, because they used to not have homework at the beginning. When they don't have homework, they love doing like arts and crafts or finding, even making lessons they love making slime, which
that was popular here too.
Yes,
all the glue in the stores was sold out. Teachers everywhere.
Yeah, I see it. Michael's here, which there's no Michael's. Like everyone on the TEFL Teacher Barcelona page asks, like, so what's Michael's here? It's like,
different.
Yeah. But the like slime recipes and trying all different recipes, and they just anything they get excited about, and it's just fun to have kids have fun with the language. And so and even with the adults where I had this one big fan this year that had fun with anything that we were doing, whether it was articles or one day we played like a board game the board game Clue, and she was like, oh, this is so much fun. So
that TPR learning methodology and really just getting into games and using your body and activities. I've always found that effective in language learning. So well, let's go to a couple questions. I know they've been coming in, and for those who are just joining us, we're talking with Rachel Sair, who's teaching in Barcelona the last 7 years and is on visiting break here now in Chicago. So big question, can you live on a teacher's salary in Spain? This person knows that they can in Latin America and has done it, but feels like Europe is so expensive. How is it possible for you to make enough to live in Europe?
It's possible in Spain, but it's not like obviously other countries where you can make money, save money.
Mm-hmm.
I know that it depends on your lifestyle too. You know, if you're going to share an apartment or live alone, the rent obviously has gone up quite a bit in Barcelona because of tourism and Airbnb and yeah. So the let's see. So yes, if you live with someone, if you live with roommates and look for deals, there's this, so it's the TEFL teacher Facebook page, TEFL teacher Barcelona Facebook page, and there's always ads on there. And kind
of like a, here's how to find housing, or I'm looking for a roommate, kind of
looking for roommates, people post job ads on there, and you know, again, just staying away from the negativity on the page. And
is that how you found your housing, or how did you go about finding a place to live?
Well, I have lived in the same place for 5 years. At first, I found mine again on that page that doesn't exist anymore, that was like Craigslist. And that's how I found the place that I'm in now. And I am just, again, super lucky with the place that I have because it's one of the cheapest, and it's in between a 1-bedroom and studio. And that's probably the biggest thing that's changed for me from going from Chicago to Barcelona is when I left here, I sold everything. And last night I was at my parents' house and just got rid of all these boxes. I'm like, I don't need any of this stuff
It's been
anymore.
5 years. What does this mean to me now?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't need stuff. I don't have any things. When I leave in the summer, I can fit all my things that none of it is of any like monetary value. I just stuff clothes in a closet, lock it up, and that's it. So, but as for finding places to live, well, the ITA can get you started at first with, you know, apartments, somewhere to live. And
that's a great site.
Not sure why people don't take advantage of that and try to do it on their own. So personally, I would take it. Yeah,
I would do this on my
own. Personally, I would take advantage of that because they have like, you know, places that are good, well priced and in good neighborhoods, and you know that they've used for years now, including my place.
Well, especially for those who are taking the on-site course, you have, you know, shared apartment options, homestays, all sorts of things. And then, you know, we talk about the amount that you spend monthly on, you know, rent, housing. What other expenses do you have, and how are you able to kind of balance out, here's what I'm bringing in and here's what I have, you know, monthly cost wise?
I'd say most people don't have like too many costs. Like it depends what your things are, you know, whether it's a little bit of groceries, eating out, you know, just some beers after work. Most of the drinks are pretty cheap. Let's see.
Because you feel like you're still able to go out and do different things and see without having to like penny pinch too hard. Yeah,
and most things are people just hanging out, having drinks, and you can, and it's not like here where they bring you a bill right away. You're gonna sit there as long as you want.
Ask for it.
Yeah, exactly. And if you ask for a bill, you have to ask for it about 50 times. So yeah, so you can sit, you know, all night at a table and have one drink. So. Or as many drinks as you want. But
and in the beginning, before you said, hey, I'm not leaving, things have gotten kind of dicey in Europe for a bit here, you did some travel around Europe and you were able to make that happen on the income you were earning.
Yeah. I was traveling mostly since my sister was in London, traveling to see her.
Pricier spot to visit there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, I was able to make that happen. But I think that actually reminds me of probably the most important point of making sure that you plan ahead. And I think for me, the most important point was having savings before I went, because you need money for deposits. And at the time, they charged me 2 times the deposit for my apartment since I didn't have a visa at the time. I only had a passport.
I'm sure that you're sticking around.
Yeah, exactly. And the very first apartment that I had, it wasn't what it seemed like. And so I left early and lost that deposit, and that happened. So, that's like 500 euros down the drain, but it's like I couldn't stay. So you need to plan for all those kinds of situations.
Yeah, startup costs are huge. About how much would you say between doing the course in Barcelona and keeping yourself afloat, and then getting started in your first job? Like, how much did you bring?
That's really
it's
hard.
A long time ago.
Yeah, and it's hard
6
to
weeks
say.
worth, 8 weeks worth.
Oh, more
than that.
Way more than that.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then you don't even get paid right away. You get paid maybe a month after you start. Like we pay teachers on the 10th of the month after they've taught. And yet this month they haven't been paid yet because there was a problem with the banks. So
always have extra.
Yes, definitely. Because, I said to my boss, like, people have to pay their rent and their bills. And so you definitely have to plan ahead.
Luckily, things are a little bit more lax in Spain than here in terms of cracking down on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just our academy. I've heard of much. This isn't even bad. There's they will be paid. There's academies that have not paid teachers, and especially if you don't have a contract, there's not much you can do about it. So
yeah, you got to be a bit more flexible and open with those kinds of things. Yeah. Great question came in. Any advice on where to start looking for jobs in Spain, other than probably the ITA school finder once you're enrolled and those kinds of things? What advice would you give a new teacher starting out?
There's a good website called Tus Clases Particulares.
Good one.
That where you can put an ad on there, and people will answer your ad. And I try to tell people not to undersell themselves because people definitely negotiate. So you want to put a price at, it depends, what your experience is. If you have absolutely zero experience, companies, our company pays 15 euros an hour, which is the lowest I would accept, but making it on your own, I might say 20 euros an hour and then accept maybe 18. So I would make your price a little bit higher than what you would actually accept. That's one good one. I'm trying to think of some of the other pages right now, but I can pass you those.
Yeah, we'll pass those along in the comments for those looking back. Now, making friends and getting started over there. This was probably a while ago when you first established your community, but I always try and say yes. Anything, just say yes to it. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you don't want to do it. Like, say yes, go out and do it. How did you get involved in the community? In what ways did you go about making friends?
The first thing I did was a lot of those meetup groups that are very, very popular in Barcelona.
Okay.
So I did a lot of language exchange groups, the Spanish, English. And if you don't have the language yet, there's tons, like, for every single interest. So volleyball, I like tennis a lot, but paddle tennis is very popular there, and we don't have anything like that.
I know what that is.
It's in between like racquetball, tennis,
like a
paddle. I don't even know. I'm like, it's really, really fun. So, learning a new sport was fun and making new friends that way. And it was something very social because then people would have drinks after and there were barbecues and let's see. Yeah, and with the meetups, they have like going out to dinner meetups and just drinks and hanging out and so many different, there's something for everyone on that website. And yeah, I don't know what it's like in Chicago because when I left, it was like not really for people who lived here. It was more for people from outside, but there's a lot of like regional people are native to Barcelona who go to the meetup. So it's nice to meet people from Barcelona. And that was where I was at the beginning. I didn't really want to hang out with Americans.
Right.
So
really immerse yourself.
Exactly. But now I've totally kind of moved on to more of getting into more of an activism kind of place in Barcelona. It's a very activist kind of city. Yeah. And so that's where I find myself now.
For those who haven't read the news, maybe it's a surprise. Google a few things.
Yeah.
A question coming in. Any other cities in Spain you can recommend teaching in? You probably done a little bit of travel in Spain.
Yeah, but I don't know really about the teaching scene. Yeah, I know that one of the teachers that just left, who just finished in Barcelona, he decided to move to Valencia, but I don't know what his experience is like there. Yeah.
In terms of where, I know at least a lot of our students are going, Madrid's going to be a hot spot for sure. And then I'd say Bilbao is a close second, location-wise. One thing I love about travel, whether I'm teaching as a tourist, is the food. I travel to eat and, you know, all those kinds of things. So I want to hear about the food in Barcelona. I've only been to northwestern Spain, A Coruña, so never Barcelona. It's still coast. Tell me your best meal. What are some of the, like, hot cuisines we need to know about?
Oh, there's so many. And when I saw that one question, I was like, that's a really hard question to answer.
Everything.
Pretty much everything. And also because it's a really international city. So like even on my birthday, I was like, why am I not picking the restaurant for my birthday? And my friend picked a Malaysian restaurant. And it's like anything I go to, everywhere I go is great. You know, we went to the last time an Ethiopian restaurant, and that was great. It's like you get taste of the world. Yeah, it's kind of like Chicago, how international it is that you can eat anything anywhere. But the Spanish food also is fantastic.
A lot of seafood on the coast, I'm assuming.
A lot of seafood. It's a little bit more expensive then. But
saving up for those big dinners.
Yeah, save up for when mom and dad come to visit. And but a lot of tapas. And then there's different kinds that are more typical from the north of Spain, that are more traditional from there. But yeah. Yeah, the food is, that's the one part where I was like, this is the first time that I was thinking about, how am I going to make it a month in Chicago, missing my fouette, like that kind of sausage and the cheese, and not so much thinking about what I was looking forward to in Chicago. Like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of wrap it up with a fun one here. What is your biggest piece of advice for anybody wanting to teach abroad in general? Maybe not Barcelona, maybe not Spain. You're a little bit nervous. Maybe you haven't even been abroad. What advice would you give somebody? Like, how has it changed your life?
Actually, with that question, I thought about like, just do it. Like you
be like Nike.
Yes, exactly. I'm like that old saying of like, you'll never regret what you didn't do. You only, you won't regret what you didn't do. You just do it because you'll never know what you missed. I can't imagine not having done this and where I'd still be in the same school doing the same thing.
Mix it up.
I could have gone back. I could have, had that same opportunity still there waiting for me. I could always come back and always go back to school, but
life here will always be here.
Exactly.
Small things will change, but you have changed more.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine what life would have been like if I hadn't done it. So this has been like, the greatest opportunity ever. And really, I mean, it's amazing. So,
How long are you going to say? You put in 7. Is there like, I'm staying forever, I got 3 more years in me. What do you feel?
I really can't imagine moving back now. Yeah. After moving there, I can't imagine coming back to the States. Like, I don't feel like this is home anymore. Yeah.
Does your family come to visit often?
My parents have come and visited often, and my sister and her family as well. So, yeah.
Nice. They will come to you. Yeah. Moral of the story. Any other questions coming through? People burning? Doesn't look like it, but feel free to put them in the comments. Reach out to your admissions advisor for those of you who are thinking about doing all this. Super big thanks to Rachel for coming and joining us. You have been a little super alumna for us since the beginning, so we're glad to have you here. Thanks to everybody tuning in this afternoon, and happy almost Friday.